All right. We just dropped off our second PyCaps Talking AI or whatever it's called, and this is just a quick test that came to mind while we're in the Zoom. Here we have. I just grabbed a document for the chapter advisor. Just one document. Grabbing this and opening NotebookLM. The idea was maybe if we put existing content into new formats, it might help people consume them. So just this one thing, we could add all the chapter advisor stuff for one of these, but let's just do this one document first. Hitting generate. This makes a two-person podcast where they talk through. If we don't share this directly with potential chapter advisors or chapter advisors, then it might give us a nice first draft of where to start in creating a audio version. And I'm not sure how long this will take because I'm usually using a lot more source documentation. So I'm interested in seeing how short this is. For future videos, I will pause during the audio generation portion. But quickly, while we're waiting on that, NotebookLM is a free tool provided by Google that essentially acts like your own personal library of information, RAG if you're into the AI vocabulary. But you can just put a ton of source documentation. In fact, we could just add every page of the website. Okay, so this one document, which really wasn't even that long. Do I still have it open? Yeah. This document here created a 14-minute podcast. Let's check it out.
Okay, so you know how you shared that document with us?
Mm-hmm.
It's called Chapter Advisor Performance Expectations and Best Practices.
Yeah.
From Pi Kappa Phi Fraternity.
Right.
Well, today we're going to take like a deep dive
Yeah.
into what it actually means to be a chapter advisor in this organization.
Cool.
So basically, we want to give everyone a clear understanding of like all the things involved when you're guiding and supporting a fraternity chapter.
For sure. And it's a lot more involved than just kind of showing up at events, right?
Yeah.
This document really lays out in detail how Pi Kappa Phi sees its chapters, getting the support they need to do well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just like the fun stuff.
Yeah.
It's everything, from their principles to, managing a student organization and helping these guys grow.
Right. And this is going to be really interesting for anyone listening who works with young people.
Absolutely.
Maybe you volunteer with a student group,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe you're just curious about how these organizations work. Like, how are they structured? How do they get support?
How do they stay on track?
Right, exactly. Okay, so the document starts by talking about the purpose of Pi Kappa Phi.
Okay.
They call themselves a values-based membership development organization.
Right.
What values are we talking about here? What are they focused on?
That's a great question. What stands out is that they put values first. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the brotherhood experience being shaped by these values.
Yeah.
And they're really specific, too. They talk about enhancing character, developing leadership skills, succeeding academically, a commitment to service, building lifelong friendships, and making sure social experiences are positive.
So it's like a holistic approach to the college experience.
It is, it is.
They're not just like party animals. They're trying to develop these young men.
Yeah.
Okay, so the chapter advisor isn't just there to, supervise.
Right.
They're actually involved in making these values happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not just like, hey, don't do that.
Yeah.
They're actively trying to cultivate this stuff.
Okay.
And the document's really clear about their role as a partner,
Okay.
not just to the students, but to the national headquarters staff, other volunteers, even people at the university.
Wow. That's a lot of collaboration.
It is.
It's like a whole network.
Yeah, if you think about it, the chapter advisor is the link between all these different groups.
Right.
Their big job is to guide the chapter,
Yeah.
to help them make good choices.
Yeah.
And it's not just about what sounds good in the moment.
Right.
It's got to be legal.
Right.
It's got to follow Pi Kappa Phi's rules.
Yeah.
And, of course, the university's policies, too.
It's a lot to juggle.
It is.
Now, the document uses this interesting phrase, challenge and support. What do you think they mean by that?
That's the heart of good mentoring, isn't it? You got to push them.
Yeah.
You got to make them grow.
Yeah.
But you also got to be there for them when they stumble.
Right, like a safety net.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And these aren't just random alumni, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
These chapter advisors are chosen by the National Council.
Okay.
So it's serious business. They're a real part of the structure.
Okay, so let's get into the details.
Okay.
The document calls them performance expectations.
Gotcha.
The first one is knowledge and training.
Makes sense.
They basically expect these advisors to know or learn really quickly everything about Pi Kappa Phi.
Yeah, they can't just walk in off the street.
Right.
The document even says they have to read specific things.
Like what?
The Gold Book. That's like their constitution, their guiding principles.
Okay.
They also got to know the risk management policy and other stuff.
That's a lot of reading.
It is.
And the learning doesn't stop there.
Right.
They have to attend a chapter advisor symposium in their first year.
Yeah,
It seems like Pi Kappa Phi is really serious about this.
they are. They are.
They're investing a lot to make sure their advisors know what they're doing.
They want everyone to be on the same page.
Yeah.
Sharing the best ways to do things.
Right. And it's not just internal knowledge either.
No, they also need to connect with people at the university,
Mm-hmm.
like the advisor for fraternities and sororities.
Okay.
And the leadership consultant from Pi Kappa Phi headquarters.
Why are those connections so important?
It's about making sure the chapter is doing things the right way,
Yeah.
following the university's rules,
Mm-hmm.
but also getting the guidance they need from the national organization.
So it's like having multiple layers of support and making sure everyone's accountable.
Exactly. And speaking of support, the advisors are supposed to build their own team, too.
Really? How so?
They got to recruit and train a scholarship advisor and a financial advisor.
Oh, that's smart. Spreading the workload and getting people with specific expertise.
Exactly. One person can't do it all,
Right.
so they create a council of advisors with different skills.
Mm.
The document even says it should have at least 5 members. Oh, and there's this little procedural thing.
Okay.
The chapter advisor has to sign all the initiation cards.
What does that mean?
It's like they're officially welcoming the new members,
Okay.
connecting them to the national organization right from the start.
It's like a formal recognition.
It is.
Now, all this training we talked about,
Yeah.
it's not just a one-time thing.
Right.
They have ongoing training and education opportunities. Like what?
They have a chapter advisor convocation,
Okay.
and they do conference calls every semester.
So they're constantly learning.
Yeah, because things change.
Right.
New challenges come up.
Mm-hmm.
They got to stay up to date on the best ways to do things.
Okay. The next section is called Core Values and Behavior.
Okay.
Now, this is about the advisors themselves.
Ah, got it.
What are the standards they're supposed to uphold?
It's all about walking the walk, right? Living those values they're trying to instill in the students.
Yeah.
First and foremost, they have to follow the rules.
Makes sense.
The fraternity's constitution, their laws, the risk management policy.
It's like setting the ground rules.
Exactly. Then they get really specific about alcohol.
Okay.
Advisors cannot buy alcohol for the students.
Okay.
They can't provide it.
Right.
And they can't encourage them to drink either.
It's like a hard line.
It is.
Why do you think they're so strict about this?
I think it's about protecting everyone,
Yeah.
protecting the students, protecting the fraternity.
Right.
Underage drinking is a huge risk.
Yeah.
They're trying to be responsible.
It makes sense.
And then there's this thing about conflicts of interest.
What does that mean?
They even define it in the document.
Okay.
It's basically when a volunteer could make money from a decision they make as an advisor.
Oh, I see.
So they got to be transparent about that.
It's about keeping things ethical,
Exactly.
making sure the advisor is always acting in the best interest of the chapter,
Right.
not trying to line their own pockets.
Right. And that kind of transparency is important everywhere, not just fraternities.
Absolutely.
Oh, and there's also no tolerance for illegal drugs.
Obviously.
And they can't have romantic or sexual relationships with students,
Okay.
or even SAD members if they work with them.
It's about keeping those boundaries clear.
Right.
Maintaining a safe and professional environment.
Exactly. And then there's this interesting thing about the advisor's own drinking.
What do you mean?
They say advisors should limit themselves to 1 drink per hour if they're around the students,
Okay.
and no more than 3 drinks total.
It's like they're setting an example.
Yeah, they're saying, hey, even if you're legal, be responsible.
Right. It's about role modeling.
Yeah.
Okay. So the document also talks about attending ceremonies.
Yeah, like the pre-initiation ceremony and the ritual of initiation.
Right. So they're involved in those key moments.
Yeah, it shows they care about those traditions, passing them on to the new members.
Okay. And lastly, in this section, they talk about financial support.
Mm-hmm.
Advisors are expected to support the Pi Kappa Phi Foundation and the Ability Experience. Can you remind us what the Ability Experience is?
It's Pi Kappa Phi's big philanthropy project.
Okay.
It's all about helping people with disabilities.
So they're connecting the advisors to the bigger mission of the fraternity.
They are.
It's not just about advising a single chapter.
Right.
Okay, now the next section is all about building rapport and communication.
Okay.
This is about how advisors connect with the students on a personal level.
It's about being present, right? Being involved.
Yeah, they want the advisors to be a consistent presence in the chapter. So they expect them to be at least 2 executive council meetings each month.
Okay.
And at least 2 chapter meetings each month.
Right.
But they even say that having an advisor at every meeting is best practice.
Yeah, they really emphasize that.
So they clearly see value in that regular involvement.
Absolutely.
They also mention the need for regular meetings with the Council of Advisors, at least once every other month.
Right, just to make sure everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, a coordinated approach to advising.
Exactly.
And it's not just about the current members.
No.
Advisors are supposed to participate in the Associate Member Education Program.
Right, from the beginning.
Yeah. Why do you think that's so important?
It shows they're invested in the development of these new guys, instilling the values right from the start.
Building those relationships early on.
Exactly.
And then beyond the meetings, they're supposed to attend chapter events too.
Yeah, like ability experience events, Founders Day activities.
It's about being visible, showing support.
Absolutely.
It's more than just oversight.
Right, it's about fostering that supportive environment.
Okay, so the next section is called Demonstrate Effective Communication and Listening Skills.
Okay.
This is obviously important for any mentor,
Yeah.
but what specific things are they looking for?
Well, first of all, they have to be reachable.
Yeah.
Keep their contact info up to date with the national headquarters.
Makes sense.
You can't guide anyone if you're unreachable.
Right.
Then they talk about communicating with the student leaders regularly.
Like the ArtCon, which is the chapter president,
Yeah.
right? And the other officers?
At least once a week.
Okay.
And it goes both ways.
Oh, how so?
The Council of Advisors is supposed to communicate with the officers they advise. At least every other week.
So there's a lot of communication happening.
Yeah, they want to make sure everyone's getting the guidance they need.
It's like a network of support.
Exactly.
Now, the document also talks about being transparent about your availability.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to be gone for a while,
Right.
why is that important?
So everyone knows who they can rely on,
Yeah.
and they can adjust if someone's unavailable.
It's about making sure that support is always there. Okay, last thing in this section is communicating with the regional governor every other month about alumni engagement activities.
It's about connecting the chapter to the bigger network.
Right, so it's not just an isolated group. They're part of a bigger system.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to demonstrate coaching skills and provide feedback.
Okay.
Now, this is where the rubber meets the road.
Okay, right.
It's not just talking. It's about giving actual guidance.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the expectations here?
They start with the administrative stuff,
Okay.
making sure the chapter submits all the necessary paperwork and fees on time.
Right. The nitty-gritty stuff.
Yeah, like the IRS 990, the chapter budget.
Mm-hmm.
The document even mentions this year in the life of a Pi Kappa Phi chapter resource.
Oh, interesting.
It seems like they have a lot of resources to help advisors.
So why is the advisor's role in all this administrative stuff so important?
It keeps things running smoothly,
Yeah.
both for the chapter and the national organization.
Right. It's about accountability.
Exactly. And it's not just paperwork. They also have to oversee the education of new members, make sure they complete the required training before initiation.
Right. It's all part of the process.
Yeah.
Now, the document also talks about using the officer transition plan.
Yeah.
They want the chapters to utilize that resource.
That makes sense.
Smooth transitions are important for any organization.
Especially one that relies on student leadership.
Yeah. You don't want to lose all that knowledge when officers change.
Exactly.
Okay. Last thing in this section is the calendar of events.
Mm-hmm.
They expect the chapter to create one each term.
It's about planning and transparency.
Right. So everyone knows what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. The final section of the performance expectations is inspire a shared vision.
Okay.
Now, this sounds more big picture.
It is.
It's about the chapter's long-term goals.
Yeah, where do they want to go?
Right. What are their aspirations? So what do they say about this?
Well, they start by talking about visits from the national organization,
Okay.
like the leadership consultant.
Right.
Advisors are supposed to make sure the chapter prepares for these visits and then follows up on the feedback they get.
It's about making the most of those opportunities.
Exactly.
Okay. They also talk about attending workshops.
Yeah, the recruitment workshop and the strategic planning workshop.
It's about shaping the future of the chapter.
Absolutely.
The advisor is involved in that process, sharing their experience, providing guidance.
Right.
And ultimately, it's about putting those plans into action.
Yeah.
Helping the chapter achieve its goals.
Exactly.
So, wow, this has been a deep dive.
It has.
I mean, the chapter advisor role for Pi Kappa Phi is really complex. It's about so much more than just giving advice.
Yeah.
It's about mentoring,
Absolutely.
ensuring compliance with all these rules, and really upholding the values of the fraternity.
It's a huge commitment.
It is.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
About what?
I mean, all these expectations, all this support,
Yeah.
it shows how much Pi Kappa Phi cares about its members,
Right.
about the success of their chapters.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, are there other organizations like this?
That's a good question.
Other places where volunteers are this dedicated to mentoring young people?
Yeah, it's something to think about.
It is.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure.
It's given us all a lot to consider.
It has.
Maybe it's even made you think about your own experiences. Have you been a mentor?
Yeah.
Have you been mentored? It's an important part of life.
It is.
Anyway, thanks for listening.
See ya.
All right, so that was just a very quick use case. Again, this is a free tool. Just throw that in there and generate the podcast. I'd be interested to see how it does with, say, if we put all the resources for an Archon in there or all the resources for Secretary or whatnot. But, something to think about. All right, thanks for watching.